Hello and welcome to another episode of the To Baldly Go podcast, and thank you for joining me on my mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to baldly go where so many have gone before. My name is Aaron, and I am watching Star Trek for the first time from the beginning. Joining me this week is my old friend and our resident Trekkie, Nate. Join us now as we discuss the next 3 episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation. Devil's Due, Clues, and First Contact. Engage. All right. We've talked about some weight loss. We've talked about some Star Wars Weird Al music. Should we talk about some Star Trek?
Let's do it.
All right. 3 more episodes this week, and in the first, the Enterprise and crew face off with She Who Must Not Be Named and her magic tricks in Devil's Due.
I didn't know
So,
that Voldemort made an appearance in Star
I,
Trek, but
did you hear them say, like, we
yeah,
can't say her name?
I think I even wrote that down. Oh yeah, can't say her name out loud, and I said
Yep.
Voldemort.
Yep. Uh, so, yeah. So I had a couple notes from the very beginning. I wrote Ebedata Scrooge. And then I also said, how sad is it that Jean-Luc Picard lives in a timeline where there's no Patrick Stewart?
Right?
Because he did A Christmas Carol
It
and
does
all of
it
that
so
stuff
well.
and does it so well. So I was just like, how sad is that? That it's kind of like all those zombie movies that exist in a universe without zombie movies
Mhm.
because they're all surprised. So that was kind of the thought I had there. What did you rate this one?
I give it a 6. This is not my favorite. Clearly, I just think it's kind of dumb. Um, I don't know if it passes the smell test for me in a lot of different
Mhm.
ways, and I did make a note kind of when I watched it again the other night. Two things. I couldn't remember because it had been a couple weeks, right? And so I couldn't
Mhm.
remember what episodes we were supposed to watch this week off the top of my head. I had to go
Yeah.
pull out my iPad and look at my notes. And I opened it up and I have each one of the episodes for the week in a tab in my app. So I go click on the tab for the
Mhm.
first episode and I saw the episode title and my immediate knee-jerk reaction is, God damn it, not again. Like I don't want to watch this again. What? And I did, but the next note that I made on my second watch through, because this was actually of the two that I rewatched, this is the only one that I made additional notes for,
Mm.
was in a lot of ways, this feels like it should be an original series episode, not a next gen episode. It's almost got a
Yeah.
little bit of that camp to it and that
Yep.
absurdity and unbelievability that I would expect out of an original series episode, but it's the next gen cast. So,
I I like that I like that assessment.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think that's a good assessment.
it doesn't do much for me. It just, I feel like the crew kind of, they obviously, are, a little more skeptical about what's going on. And so they catch
Hmm.
on pretty quickly that there's something more going on here than what she says she is.
Right.
But this, planet of people that are supposedly sophisticated enough to, you know, have the technology that they have, they so immediately just fall for everything. And I
Yeah.
don't know that that necessarily, I don't know, it doesn't pass the smell test for me.
Hmm.
So I gave it a 6. I mean, I almost, after watching it again, was willing to drop it to a 5, but
Hmm.
I'm sticking to a 6.
Fair enough. I thought it was a good episode. I'll give it a 7. Um I it yeah, I don't know what they could have done differently to make it much better. I think it could have gone to an 8. And maybe it did feel a bit like a throwback to the original series.
Yep.
Um, I thought it was just a serviceable, entertaining episode. Nothing overly memorable, but it was a fine episode. And I think this is, as I seem to have said so many times. It just feels like it's one that's lifted by the overall quality of the series at this point. It's
Yes.
just like even their episodes that are otherwise not anything special are just at the very least executed really well.
Yep.
So they're I don't think they could make Catspaw or Code of Honor good in season 4. I think that would still be dog shit.
Hmm.
But they can make an episode like this where it's just like it's otherwise kind of a nothing episode, not one that I'm sure we'll remember until we watch it again and you think, God damn it, not this one again.
Yes.
Uh, but I mean, even then, you thought it was you didn't want to rewatch it and you still gave it a 6 and thought it was okay.
Yeah.
So it's
Not
I think
terrible. It's just
I think
not
it's
a great
lifted up.
episode.
It was yeah, I thought it was interesting. You've got Picard trying to solve the case. A very Picard and Data heavy episode.
Yep.
Um,
Which they
and
carried it. I think that
they did.
this could have been a lot worse if you didn't have very strong performances from Patrick
Oh
Stewart,
yeah.
from Brent Spiner, right? I mean,
Yep.
those two do a lot of heavy lifting in this episode.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I thought yeah, I thought it was good. It was an interesting villain to have that's not the normal Star Trek villain. A
Yep.
lot of the episodes in this series, they don't have one like super antagonist. Some do,
Right.
but it was an interesting change of pace in that regard. And again, I thought it was pretty well executed, even if nothing particularly special. I mean, it was pure Deus Ex Machina at the end to save the day. The explanation was just like out of nowhere, but still worked, I guess. Worked well enough. I mean, the entire time it felt like, okay, she's not what she appears to be, but then there was nothing that I recall that would lead you to think like, oh yeah, she's got a ship that they're just not seeing and she's controlling it all from there. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I thought it was. I thought it was a fine episode, so I gave it a 7.
So my question for you, because it was one of the things I thought about, and I think about this often as I'm watching these because I almost in some ways try and put myself into your shoes of watching them for the first time. And I'm curious, they obviously make reference to it at some point in the episode. I think like half to maybe two-thirds through. But did it ever occur to you that she was Q or a member of the Continuum before they referenced it?
Not before they referenced it.
Okay.
When they referenced it, it was like, oh. But then it's like, okay, let me get my deconstruction hat on and
Yeah,
just be like, okay, they wouldn't be that obvious about it.
right.
And even then, Picard just dismissed it outright. Like
Yeah.
Q wouldn't care about these things, and he wouldn't
Yeah.
do it like
And
this. It's just because Q, I feel like wants to be over that. He wants them to know that he's fucking with them.
100%. And that's
Doesn't want them. He doesn't, and maybe that will lead to some great surprise down the road in a Q episode. But it doesn't feel like Q wants to be like, surprise, I gotcha. He wants to be like, surprise, I'm back. How do you
right.
think I'm going to mess with you this time?
Yep.
And he wants to be ahead of it and is so arrogant about it that he's just like, oh, yeah, you can totally know it's me, and you're still not going to be able to deal.
And I don't know if they intentionally were trying to plant that as a misdirect at all. I mean, I don't remember watching this episode for the first time, but certainly when it started, it never occurred to me that it was going to be Q,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and
Now, I did write down the note, is she part of the Q continuum?
yep,
And I think that was more because they brought it up and it maybe a little red herring in that regard,
sure.
but it was kind of like, oh, that would be an interesting spin on it. And I mean, we have seen others from the Q continuum.
Yep.
So
There's
it
more than
was kind of
one.
like, oh, maybe that will be an explanation. And I could see, at least on initial watch, I thought the explanation of she's just a con artist was it worked. I could also see how going back and watching it again, it's like, okay, then what's the point? What does this any of this matter even? So I could see it being less good on subsequent viewings,
Mhm.
but for an initial viewing only one time, I was just like, it was fine.
Yeah, I
And
would be curious if you went back and watched it if you felt the same way.
yeah, I
That's
could
fine.
see
I mean,
this.
you're supposed to rate it on your first opinion.
Yep.
So,
And I could see maybe someday I'll go back through and watch episodes and re-rate them. And I could see there are a lot that I can see where it's like I had an initial thought and I can already anticipate liking it more watching it again. And
yep.
there's some where I can say like, okay, yeah, that was good once. And this is one that I could see being very much in the this was good once camp. Um, and there were some interesting points too. Like I did like some of the little courtroom thing they were doing. And of course I go back to another one of my all-time favorite books that I've referenced countless times on the podcast, The Beginning of Infinity,
Right.
when she says, "Can you explain it, Picard?" And with the insinuation that if he can't explain it,
Right.
it means there's no explanation.
Yep.
And that is not necessarily accurate
No.
because a big point in, excuse me, a big point in the beginning of Infinity is that if something is not prohibited by the laws of physics, then it is by default a knowledge problem.
Yep.
So if something is not being prohibited by the laws of physics, and whatever the laws of physics are in reality or in the Star Trek universe, if it is not understood, that is a knowledge problem. Or if it cannot be explained, that is a knowledge problem, not a it doesn't exist problem. Or that just because we don't know or understand the explanation does not mean that an explanation does not exist.
And I'll go a step further and say that that is true. And the reality of it is we don't completely understand physics at this point. So
Right.
even if it looks like it, breaks the laws of physics, it's more likely because we haven't concretely figured that out yet, and that there is an explanation with whatever the true law is in that situation.
Right. Right. And yeah, that point in the beginning of Infinity goes even a step further because it says first, just because we don't understand an explanation doesn't mean that the explanation doesn't exist,
Yeah.
nor that it is beyond human comprehension,
Yep.
which I shockingly had a debate with a friend one day and he was just like, I disagree. And it's just like,
It's an interesting thing to disagree on.
so the disagreement with that would be stating there is an inherent limit on human knowledge.
Okay.
And I disagree with that notion because if it can be understood,
Right.
it can be understood by humans. Just because we don't understand it doesn't mean that that's not possible. Now, you can't really test that other than
No,
life
I
and
mean,
experience.
the only thing I think I would, I mean, I think I agree with you, and I think the only place where I struggle with that statement is along the lines of there might be a boatload of knowledge that we need before we can understand that thing.
Right.
So to understand that thing may not be physically capable for us now because
Right.
we have bridged that gulf. And
But the
and I,
point is that it is a knowledge problem at that point. It is not a physics problem. It is a knowledge problem. And
Yes.
just because we don't know that today doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, nor that it is unknowable.
Hmm.
Even if we don't know it today, it is theoretically knowable. We just don't have the knowledge to know it, which is exactly the point.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't have a ton more on this one. One note I made. So, I we played a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons with the kids, trying to do that, and I've been listening to some stuff about doing like audiobooks on being a DM and things like that. And I was listening to some stuff about villains, and I was just like, Ardra would make a good D&D villain. Like
Mhm.
small, couple sessions, small campaign kind of villain that
Be on your
you
toes
could
a little
defeat,
bit.
could come back, but was an interesting villain, a good villain for just one episode.
I would say I agree. And one of the things that I was thinking about as we were kind of leading into talking about this episode, and I was kind of rehashing it, we we talk a lot about how Star Trek doesn't touch a ton on religion in general. It does a little bit
Hmm.
here and there, but it's not a main theme. And so we have one of those rare what I would call God episodes, except for it's, the anti-God episode
Hmm.
because she's literally manifesting herself in the equivalent of the devil in multiple cultures. And
Hmm.
I would say that's an interesting bit of exploration. They didn't explore it a ton,
Hmm.
but it is interesting for them to kind of bring that religious element into it when they typically
Yeah.
don't touch that kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree.
The other thing that I had written down is Um, just a question that I don't think I've ever really thought about much, but it's kind of sat in the back of my mind. What is the range of Troy's empathic abilities? Because frequently in these episodes, she's picking up things on a planet below them
Hmm.
when they're, decently far away.
Hmm.
And it's never really discussed, but it makes me wonder, like, how far away can she sense things? Like how and how does she sift through all the noise
Yeah.
of, millions, billions of people all at once? So I don't have an answer for that. It is a thing that I noted while I was watching the episode that I thought was very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good call out.
So you ready for
Um,
some trivia?
yeah, is there some good trivia on this one?
Yeah. We'll start with the first one. I swear I did not read this before we started talking, by the way. I never do. This is based on an unused script for an episode of the aborted series Star Trek Phase 2, written around 1978. So it was not far
Yeah.
off from the original series vibe.
So, right. That makes sense, and that checks out. So one thing I was gonna say, one of my notes, and I didn't even think of it, but then once you made that comment about the original series, it makes a lot more sense. The establishing shot they had of the planet exterior,
Yep.
we don't see a lot of that in Next Gen. We saw more of it in the original series. I'm thinking of a few times where we did, and even then, not all that often. But it was one of those shots where
You get more of the
it
planet.
wasn't jarring, but it was noteworthy because it struck me as like, oh wow, we haven't seen something like this in quite a while. And
Point.
then I think we saw another one in First Contact. Um, but it was just that I wrote that was quite the establishing shot of the planet exterior. We don't see that kind of shot very often.
Yeah.
And it was something that was more trying to think of what was the episode with the wall boogers that killed Kirk's brother
Oh,
in the original series because that one had shots like that.
yeah, I'm trying to
Um,
remember what episode that was.
yeah.
That's a long time ago.
I know I'm gonna find it. It
Like a captain with a glue-on mustache.
was
It's
it Operation Annihilate?
Was it? Was it that late? Isn't that season three?
No, that's last episode of season one.
Yeah, I bet it is then. I feel like it was
Yeah.
a season one episode.
Yep. Yep. It was that was the episode. It was the season finale of season one.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, that one had very similar exterior shots it's not a big thing, but just something that caught my eye.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's weird things I pay attention to. It was like when we were watching um Terminal List Dark Wolf. I think it was the fourth episode
Hmm.
last week when Abby and I watched that, and they had a shot that it was a very long shot. It was like following one character and then picked up another one and then picked up another one, and I pointed that out because it was awesome. It was so
Yep.
well executed, and I was like, this is a really long shot. And I was like, you always say that. Like it's something
The
that there are certain elements of movie
cinematography and stuff
making
is
and
really
cinematography
interesting.
that catch my eye,
Yeah,
and it it doesn't really take me out of it. It does sometimes probably, but it I just have a real appreciation for it. So just thinking about those kind of things, I just appreciate
100%.
when I notice those things. But
Yeah.
yeah, what other good trivia do we have?
The opening sequence, which shows Data performing Scrooge on the holodeck under Picard's watchful eye, is a nod to Patrick Stewart, whose 1988 stage adaptation of A Christmas Carol was a huge success.
Yeah.
So again, just kind of, seeing the things that are there, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think this hits on your beginning of Infinity comment, um, too, very succinctly, and I forgot about this quote. This episode illustrates Arthur C. Clarke's third law. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Hmm. Yep.
So I love that quote.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here. The first mention of Feklar as being the devil in Klingon mythology. Previously, in Day of the Dove, the Klingon commander Kang told Captain Kirk that the Klingons have no devil, although
Hmm.
Klingons are known to exaggerate to seem tougher, and Feklar's role in the mythology is analogous to the devil.
Hmm.
The title paraphrases a quote from William Shakespeare: "The devil shall have his bargain, for he was never yet a breaker of proverbs. He will give the devil his due."
Hmm.
Worf is unnerved at seeing what appears to be Feklar, who torments the dishonored after they die. At
Hmm.
this time, he is still suffering from discommendation by the Klingon High Council.
Hmm. Yep.
Understandable, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Uh,
I had that thought too of like, oh, yeah, that's he's in a position of dishonor.
let's see. Robert Blackman was nominated for an Emmy Award for Outstanding Costume Design for a series in this episode, which I totally understand.
Yep.
Great costumes. Um, so Picard is a bit dismissive, even derisive, of Data's stated appreciation for method acting. Patrick Stewart is a classically trained actor. Classical actors are known to hold similar views of method acting. Like, screw that.
Like your job is to get into the role and just do it on cue.
Yep, exactly. This is the only episode not involving Q in which he is mentioned.
Interesting.
Yep. Which could be, I guess potentially a spoiler for later. If they mention Q, it means he's in the episode. Whatever.
Yeah.
Here you go. This is,
Then again, if I pay attention to the names of the episodes, I have a feeling that I'll be able to pick
yeah, that's
out 90% of the Q episodes.
usually a pretty good clue. This was one of your favorite episodes, this next bit of trivia, if you
Hmm.
remember. Nearly 2 decades earlier, the Magics of Megas 2 had Kirk's Enterprise meeting a villainous
Oh,
alien who claimed to be
Jesus
the devil.
Christ. Oh God, that episode. Oh man.
I remember how much you hated that
Oh
episode.
God, it was so bad.
Oh, it's so bad, but man, that's a funny bit of trivia to drop in your lap.
Yep.
Let's see. Okay, so Captain Picard says a wise man once said, "There's a sucker born every minute." To which Data says, "Barnum, PT." This is a quote usually attributed to P.T. Barnum, but in fact most likely never uttered by him. There is no reliable source ever documenting his use of this phrase or even the term sucker.
Hmm. Okay.
Let's see here. Mhm. Picard mirrors Q's finger snapping when performing the supernatural tricks at the end of the episode.
I did not pick up on that.
I subconsciously noticed that, like I
Hmm.
can, but I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, that's it. That's all the good stuff. So,
Okay. All
should we
right.
do the next one?
Let's move on to the next one, which my summary or intro to this is just this would clearly be Ron Swanson's favorite Star Trek episode because I don't know if you've seen enough of Parks and Rec, but there's an episode where somebody gives him a riddle and he just giggles with glee and is just like, I love puzzles. So, yeah, this would clearly be Ron Swanson's favorite Star Trek episode. It's a mystery. Who is this man? Who killed him? Where's the money he was talking about? It's a mystery. We have to go search for clues.
That's a good intro. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I wanted to rewatch this one, and I
Yep.
did not have a chance to finish it, like I
Yep.
said before. Um, it had a my initial thought was to give it a 7,
Okay.
but my gut was also just like, I don't know why, but I don't feel like that's quite enough. So,
Okay.
I started rewatching it. I wasn't entirely able to finish, but I'm giving it an 8, just kind of a gut feeling. Like there was a lot going on in this episode. There was a ton happening.
Hmm.
So I feel like it was very easy to miss stuff, especially if there was any level of distraction around me. And there was.
Yep.
So I'm giving it a preemptive 8 because it just had that feeling of like there's something really cool happening with this episode that I know I can just feel like I missed something.
Sure.
Like I caught the big key points in it. I thought it was a very interesting twist at the end when they revealed how it all played out.
Yep.
Still have some questions about how some of it'll go. Like at the end, if they're then over a day removed and still pretending that they missed by 30 seconds, and they're not leaving any clues, but then are they going to get to the next planet and just be like, oh, fuck, it's tomorrow? And like any of that, that is my biggest issue with the episode. Maybe they explain that away. I get that as I was rewatching, Data said, because they said they were only out for 30 seconds, but they traveled more than a day. And Data basically said, like, oh, yeah, I'll align the clocks with the starbase. So maybe there is some level of like losing track of time via travel and time dilation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I felt that was like the biggest loose end that was kind of remaining at the end of the episode. Um, and if they addressed it, cool. I will pick that up when I finish the rewatch. But yeah, I felt like it was just a great episode. Even if I could feel that I missed something, it just had that feeling of like there's something awesome going on in this episode.
You are way more willing to wave that away than I am. Um, I did watch it twice. And obviously have seen it, I don't know how many times before, doesn't matter. Not for a long time though. But I vaguely remembered the course of the episode. Um, that I think this episode could be an 8. I really, really do. I
Hmm.
think everything is there to make it an 8,
Hmm.
and that stupid time thing ruins it for me.
I get that.
Because it makes no goddamn sense. And I don't think they explain it well. And I've watched it twice recently looking for an explanation for how they can explain 30 seconds into 24 hours. And I just think it's
Well, then they did 30 seconds twice.
yeah. So now it's 2 days. And
Yeah.
so I think it's a poor writing decision to
Hmm.
not flesh that little string out. And I think it would be relatively easy to do that.
They
And
could
they
they could
just
have
don't.
easily done it with one line. I
Yeah,
mean, they did it with like Jordy early on was just like mentioned something about their beards not growing.
yeah,
And then they referenced something about how they put him in some kind of biostasis.
yep,
And Jordy said, like, well, that explains why our beards didn't grow.
yeah.
And
It's
so I'm granting it. So again, my initial reaction was give it a 7,
right.
but I felt like there was something more there. And my first general thought note was probably a 7. I liked the episode, though it does still leave some questions. Like, won't it be a big clue when they finally get wherever they're going and realize they've lost more than just 30 seconds?
Yep,
Um, and maybe they did address it when Data said, like, I'm gonna align our stuff because Data knew that they had lost today. And he said it was only 30 seconds. And so, as far as, I mean, Data knows what's going on.
for sure.
So, that is a clue potentially that is there, except for he was programmed and promised not to ever say anything. So, is that a clue or not?
Yep.
But if it is a normal thing for them to have to kind of align their clocks because was it we were listening we just listened again to Project Hail Mary,
Yeah.
and fantastic book. Can't
Great,
wait for the movie.
great book.
But we just listened to that again, and they talked about how they traveled like 12 light years, but to them it only felt like 4.
Hmm.
So there is that level of when you're dealing with light speed, higher than light speed travel, I'm sure there is that element of like, well, to us it feels like this time, but it's actually this time. So maybe they're able to write it off in that way. But that just to me seems like a big thing. And if you could somebody smart enough could do the math and just be like, this doesn't make sense because we're missing a day or 2 days. Um, but
And that's
yeah.
where I think it falls down for me because, again, I think they could explain it. And yes, like time dilation is a thing. They don't ever, to my knowledge, really ever address it. I believe the implication, whether they say it in the show or if it's part of like the tech manuals or whatever, is that at higher than warp speeds, there is no time dilation. Because you're doing more of like a bending of space-time and making
Hmm.
2 points kind of closer to each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
You aren't actually moving faster than light. It's just things are bending around you.
Gotcha.
Impulse speeds, are should be subject to relativity and should be subjected to dilation, but it seems to be like a hand wavy thing that they just forget it exists.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not something that's the easiest to address in a medium like this
exactly. So
without
again,
going into super scientific exposition that
yeah,
nobody really
it makes
wants.
it like a hard sci-fi show, and yeah. So I think there's one or two lines to your point that they can throw in there that explains the, 1 day versus 30 seconds, and they didn't do that. And for me, it kind of just wrecked the episode for me because
Hmm.
I couldn't see a way that they wouldn't basically end up in this scenario over and over and over again. Because
Right.
you just can't explain that away. I gave it a 6.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
I'm just not, I don't, I, I'm pretty good at suspending disbelief in most cases.
Hmm.
Like I'm not generally pretty hard on these episodes when it's like like oh you could have done that a little better. I just think it's a fundamental flaw in the plot line. And it takes me out of it and
Yeah.
I don't like it. I also
And
realize that I'm an outlier because your score lines up almost perfectly with IMDb.
yeah.
So it's me. I'll admit it's me. But it doesn't
Yeah.
change.
So I wonder too if this is going to be something that maybe if I watched it multiple times. I think the rewatch, I'm already
Okay.
picking up more things, which adds to the experience, adds to the episode. But I wonder if I've seen it, if I get to a point where I've seen this episode 5, 6 times, that it'll be kind of like, oh, okay, then you go from like, oh, that was pretty cool. Oh, look at all that I missed. Oh, look at all that I missed, and start
Yeah.
nitpicking it and kind of taking it apart that way. But to me, it was like I was trying to figure it out along the way. Like, how long were they knocked out? Was it 30 seconds? But there's a full day of growth. So what the hell is going on?
Right.
Um, and so then it was like, okay, was Data somehow affected by the wormhole? Is he lying? What's going on? Um, so yeah, I didn't have a ton of notes for this one because it was just pretty captivating. Um,
So
and
it's
I
interesting. And I wanted to see if there's anything on IMDb about it. So I actually pulled up the goofs section of it because and I almost
hmm
never look at this because who cares? But it is interesting that it says, and I didn't think about this, but it just reinforces the six. Like it's dumb. After the surprise travel through the wormhole, Riker says the Enterprise is a day's travel from where they had been. A
hmm
sensor probe is launched to the planet the Enterprise had been about to study, and somehow, in a short time, not even an hour's travel, as implied, the probe makes it not only into sensor range but into visual range.
hmm,
So the probe can't travel as fast as the Enterprise. Like, yes, it's
right.
smaller, but it's also not going to have, if it's warp capable at all, it's certainly not going to have, an engine that can move as fast as the Enterprise can.
hmm
I don't know. I just think it could have been explained. Like
hmm
it just could have been, and it wasn't. And it could have just as easily been as something happened that knocked the crew out for a day, and it took Data that long to get everyone to wake up.
Right. Right. They
Like
almost
it's
didn't
such an
even
easy
need to
explanation.
they didn't need to add that time element to it because it could have just been, yeah, we were
I
knocked
mean,
out
you
for a
wouldn't have had
day.
an episode at that point because they would have been like, "Oh, shucks," and continued on their merry way. It
Right.
wouldn't have drawn them back to where they had come from to investigate further. But I just,
Well, yes and no, because I mean they could have taken a different path of like, well, what possibly knocked us out for a day and had these other effects or
yeah,
impacts? But
I,
yeah, I can totally see that. Um, yeah, and I for all of my talk of being deliberate in the things that you do, I said in my notes, I was just like, I want to be able to go an 8 for this one, and I don't know why. It's just a feeling.
and that's fine.
Uh, and
You can
but
like it,
but
like,
I think it's funny though. I can't say why I want to bump it up to an 8. It's just kind of that gut feel because my initial reaction was 7, but I'm gonna stick with the 8 for now because I did just have that gut feel.
yep.
But yeah, I thought it was an enjoyable episode. At first I was like, oh, another Dixon Hill story, and then that was over. And then I was
Yep.
like, oh, it's gonna be a
But
Sherlock
she
Data
was
episode. And I
from
was like, oh no, Data
Cleveland.
knew everything that was going on the entire time.
Yep.
So it wasn't a Sherlock Data episode.
I laughed so hard at Guinan. It's Gloria from Cleveland. Just hard cleave. That made me
She was
laugh.
like, and this is fun.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, that's Picard looking at her like Ron Swanson. I love puzzles.
Just so amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Um, let's see. I'm looking at the trivia. Honestly, there
Hmm.
isn't anything good. I mean, there's like six of them on here, maybe eight, and none of them are, who cares? They're boring. I think that just this was probably a bottle episode.
Yeah,
Just,
that's a good point. It was all on the Enterprise, wasn't it?
yep, and it's mid-season. So, they're looking for ways to have episodes that have a smaller budget that are easy to film, um, and that they can bury in the middle of the season.
Hmm.
Excuse me, bury them in the middle of the season where nobody notices them.
Yeah.
So
I will say when I mentioned to Abby this was one of the episodes, she was like, "Ooh, I love that episode."
again, I'm probably wrong. Like again, it's an 8.2 with 4,200 ratings.
Yeah.
So I'm probably wrong. That being said, that detail bugs me so much I can't give it a
Yep.
high
Oh,
analysis.
and that was one of the first things I noted after I was done watching it. I was just like, "Yeah, but this is a pretty big clue that will be figured out as soon as Picard goes like, what day is it again?
Yeah.
That's not 30 seconds." Or they get to the next planet and they're just, like I said, what, it's tomorrow? No, you're wrong. So it's that whole idea that can you cover this up?
Yep.
No,
No, you can't.
but
I will say I did learn something in this episode that I had no idea existed. And when it was said, I was like, that can't be real. And I Googled it. So Picard calls Crusher an ethnobotanist. And it's like, that's a made up word. They just made up some scientific sounding fun word. So I Googled it.
yeah.
It exists. An ethnobotanist studies the relationship between people and plants, focusing on how different cultures utilize, manage, and perceive plants.
Hmm.
It's a real thing.
So it's plant reconciliation studies.
Yeah,
Got it.
you got it. So yeah, that's what I got.
All
Um,
right.
yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, let's move on to the last episode. Disguised as an alien prior to first contact, Will's life becomes imperiled when incurred injuries reveal his foreign internal structure to a xenophobic alien population in Star Trek First Contact. I was expecting James Cromwell to be in here, but apparently I was
I
wrong.
know my first comment was not
I
the
also
first.
thought it was going to be a little longer.
Yeah. Um, yeah, despite that, this is maybe my ray of sunshine for the week. I liked this episode. Um, I think it's an interesting exploration of what happens when a society realizes that they're not alone in the universe. And it's, typically we see these things from a human perspective, movies like
Hmm.
Independence Day or whatever, right? Which is also the opposite end of the spectrum of what's happening here versus, you know, the Federation showing up. But like it's always the human reactions. And granted, it's the kind of the same, but it's interesting to kind of see it from the other direction of like what happens when you show up on a planet and say, "Hi, we're the aliens that you don't know exist." What happens
Hmm.
to society? Like, how do people react to that? And I think it's a pretty realistic reaction of, what we call in my world fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? Of
Hmm.
like just people kind of lose their mind a little bit. And they stop acting rationally and they act out of fear and out of emotion rather than out of like logic, right? And
Yeah.
so this entire episode I think is a really great exploration of that. I
Hmm.
gave it a 7. I was really tempted to bump it to an 8. I don't honestly know why I have it. I can't really articulate why it's not an 8 versus a 7. Um, but I think it's a good episode. Like it is well done. It has
Hmm.
stakes. It is interesting. It explores a lot of different things in a very short period of time. And we get to see Lilith. And who doesn't want to see Lilith?
I was gonna say, is the nurse BB Newworth? Does she have the most distinct voice of anyone in
Anyone?
entertainment?
Anyone?
I was just like, holy shit, who is that? And then I had to look it up and I was like, okay, it is. Yeah.
Yep, it's Lilith.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my first note is not the first contact I was hoping for. My second note is, but it's got what's her face from Cheers because I couldn't remember the name of her character at that moment. But it's like, oh yeah, this
Yeah.
is the one that's got what's her face
So
from.
it's funny. I oftentimes will see the names pop up, and I must have looked away and I did not see BB Newirth's name pop up. I did see in was it in Clues? No, sorry, it was in Devil's Due. I saw the name of a guest star, Paul Lambert, and it's funny because in the Power Trip morning show on KFan, one of the people on the show is Paul Lambert. Um, Not the same guy.
I would
But
imagine.
I was like, oh, meat sauce is in this show, but because that's what they call him. But yeah, I was just like, one, the nurse, such a distinct voice, like you
Mhm.
recognized it immediately, and then after that, one super creepy. She was super rapey of Riker, and Riker is a fucking freak.
Yeah. I was a little.
We've known that Riker can be a bit of a freak, but man, he must be a real freak.
I was a little uncomfortable during that scene because it happened to be, of course, the scene that was playing as Ellie wandered back into the living room. It was like, do I let it go? And she wasn't paying enough attention for me to fast forward it. And I
Yep,
probably would have drawn more attention to it by clicking ahead than just letting it play. Because
yep.
it was not, obviously, wasn't graphic or super descriptive in any way, but
It was awkward as hell though.
I did note in my notes that it was like it's quid pro quo for Riker to get out of there. Like I've taken enough sexual harassment training as a leader to know that that is not like you can't trade sexual favors for advancement. Like you can't. It's not allowed. Uh,
Yeah,
but yeah, the it was an awkward episode. Um,
yeah.
I guess you do what you got to do if it's the only way out, I guess. But sure.
Yeah. So there were some awesome lines in this episode. And yeah, I thought it was a really cool exploration of the Prime Directive and kind of the most clear application of it that we've seen. They've never really discussed, oh, hey, yeah, we sent some spies to go there well beforehand,
And
and
what's the
then we
of that?
spy again to check on them. And so I was trying to think, I was just like, this seems very familiar. Like there were elements of it that seemed so familiar. I had to look back at my notes, and I think it reminded me of the episode Who Watches the Watchers?
Okay.
Um, and it was different, but had some similar moments where that one, they were then viewing them all as gods, not anything else, or viewing one of them as a god. Um, but there were the moments of them being brought to the Enterprise and seeing like, no, it's not that. We are just a really advanced thing. So there were aspects of this episode that seemed super familiar.
It's it.
And I'm not saying that is a bad thing. It was just
No.
like it was a little bit of deja vu. Like I, I've we've seen this, haven't we? Did I see this episode and not realize it? And it wasn't that. I think it was that it just reminded me of elements of that particular episode. Um, Overall, I thought this was a really solid episode. I could go 7 or 8, and I feel like it's just maybe I'm feeling generous today. I went with the 8.
Okay.
Um, I just thought it was a great episode. Um, yeah, some awesome lines in it, and where it seemed very believable for how an interaction like this might go. Because you're gonna have people who are just like, fuck this. Like, no way. And
Yep.
then you're going to have other people who are just like, okay, we need to manage this very carefully to make sure that we don't mess this up and go the wrong direction on things. Um, but yeah, some just fascinating lines in the episode of, I will have to say, this morning I was the leader of the universe as I knew it. This afternoon I am only a voice in a chorus. But I think it was a good day.
It's one of my favorite
That
lines
was
I've heard in any episode.
amazing. That was an amazing line.
Yeah, I
I,
wrote that one down too. I liked it so
yeah.
much.
But then on the flip side of that, you've got others saying, conquerors often arrive with the words, "We are your friends."
Hmm.
And that just their arrival will change our entire understanding of life and all of that. It was yeah, just really a good, really good episode.
Or there's one here that I had forgotten about until now. I didn't write it down, but I'm just looking at some of the top quotes on IMDb. And Picard says, I hoped that we would have found Commander Riker before you did, so that this matter would not complicate our introduction. It was a mistake.
Hmm.
And Durkin, nodding slowly, says, Yes, a mistake I might have made in your place. I rather like it, actually.
Hmm.
Like it? That you make mistakes, like any man.
Hmm. Yeah,
Just like, yeah, they're not perfect. Only human, right? In air quotes,
right.
we're talking about multiple races, but they're not gods. They're not, you know, they are fallible, just like anything is.
Well, sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
100%.
Yeah. Uh, Completely unrelated to any of that in the episode. Revis Jakara might be one of the most badass, like just random names ever.
Yeah.
And I will absolutely have to steal that for, say, next time I play a video game and need to pick a name. Just
Yep.
like, man, that name is
Name a D&D
awesome.
character that or something.
Exactly. That name is just awesome. Um, yeah. I I didn't have many notes on this
I didn't
episode.
either. I just sort of sat and watched
I
it. Again, I
yeah,
enjoyed the episode.
I just thought it was a really solid episode. Um, and yeah, I very little of this episode, if any, was on the Enterprise.
Very, very
They
little.
had a few that they pulled back up to the Enterprise, but very little was
Yep.
on the Enterprise. And I thought these episodes, all of them, um, but especially Clues and First Contact, had, uh, I guess, yeah, I thought Clues, but they had a very different scope and feel than a lot of the episodes have,
Mhm.
which again, I think just shows the strength of the show at this point and
Yeah.
and the things that they're able to do and explore, and that they have the trust in their writers and in the cast and everything, and the execution to just nail a lot of these episodes. So,
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, we've had some stinker, like even then we haven't really had that many bad episodes this
Well,
season, or even mediocre. I think I've got 1 5
yeah.
in this season, a handful of sixes where we had a little run of like not the greatest um episodes, but these ones I thought were this was a solid set of episodes for us to watch.
And this one was directed by Cliff Ball, who just looking back at, recent episodes that he's directed, we generally like Cliff.
Hmm.
Cliff also directed Best of Both Worlds, Part 1 and 2. Uh,
Okay.
and more recently, Remember Me and is there another one in there somewhere? Maybe not. Going back last season, Hollow Pursuits, A Matter of Perspective, The Hunted, not episodes that we hated by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
Oh, but hey, best of both worlds, it's, would argue that. Like,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't have a whole lot else either. The only thing I kind of had was I would have loved to explore this more. I'm okay that we didn't. I don't feel like it's necessarily missing, but they have this dialogue at the end about the surveillance aspect of things. And Chancellor Durkin is obviously upset that that the surveillance has happened, that they've been there under false pretenses for years at this point. And I think Picard does a really good job of explaining why they do that, um,
Hmm.
so as to better prepare themselves and understand what it's going to be like when they finally first make first contact, and give it a better chance of success and that kind of thing. And I think that's an interesting exploration of that concept because it's one of those scenarios in life where I think both things are true, right?
Hmm.
I I think Durkin has a lot of reason to be upset about the surveillance and the false pretenses and all of that. And I think Picard is right about the fact that, you know, to an extent that's necessary to ensure the safety and security of those who make first contact. And I
Hmm.
don't completely know how to reconcile that in my brain, other than it's an interesting expose of two very different opinions and priorities that they're trying to merge into one point.
Hmm.
I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's what I got on that. Um, are you ready for some trivia?
Yeah, but first,
Yep.
uh, Durkin was the voice of Woodhouse from Archer.
No,
Yep.
no way. Really? Maybe that's why I thought his voice was so familiar. Because at one point I thought that I'm like it can't be. It doesn't look like him, but he sounded like the guy from Unsolved Mysteries, whose name I'm blanking on right now. But yeah,
Mm,
Woodhouse. Imagine that.
yep.
Oh, he was also in Star Wars: The Old Republic.
There's some
Uh,
voices in Skyrim.
yep. He played one of the Transformers in Dark of the Moon. So
Yeah.
he did a lot of voice acting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So,
Huh.
yeah.
There you go. Did not know that. All right. Well, that was a fun bit of trivia. That's not trivia there. Is this the trivia? I have too many tabs open. Okay. So, BB Newirth was working on Cheers at the same time this episode is being filmed. In
Hmm.
order to dovetail her schedule, it was sometimes necessary for her to go to makeup with the next gen, then skip across the lot to rehearse with Cheers in her alien makeup, then return to the set of next gen to finish makeup and shoot. She reported that the Cheers cast appreciated the humorous distraction.
That's funny.
I like
She
that.
didn't even seem to have that big of a part in the episode, other than like one scene.
Yeah, it's just maybe there was more that got cut that we just never
Yeah,
saw. I don't know.
maybe.
I liked this, and what I didn't catch it during the episode, and honestly, I feel a little sad now that I didn't catch it, and I will probably now every time I watch this see it. So, when offering a glass of wine to Chancellor Durkin, Picard says that the wine was given to him by his brother Robert, or I'm sorry, brother Robert. In Family, Robert asks him not to drink it alone, and Picard grants his brother's wish here.
Hmm. That's awesome.
That is awesome. What a great callback.
Yeah.
Let's see here. The script went through a number of drafts before the story was finalized. One version was proposed as a season-ending cliffhanger, with Will Wheaton's scheduled departure from the series. Another draft was a proposed vehicle for Wesley's departure, as he would have stayed behind on Melcoria as a cultural observer, which I think would have been dumb.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Um, in Maras's office, about 9 minutes into the episode, it appears that there's a model of the Discovery spaceship from 2001: A Space Odyssey on the table at the back of the room.
Hmm.
Let's see here. Entertainment Weekly ranked this episode number 8 on their list of top 10 episodes to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Hmm.
Is this the eighth best episode you've seen so far?
No.
No, I don't think so either. It's an interesting decision. Let's see here. Let's see. The basic plot was seen
I
as
mean,
an
this might be. I mean, it's been a while, but I'm looking at my ratings for this season. This could potentially be the eighth best episode of this season.
yeah, I
I've
could see.
got. I know I, unlike you, put the Best of Both Worlds Part 2. I gave a 9, but I so far have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven eights,
Yeah. I mean, it could be a
including this
top
one.
20 for the series.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
could be.
potentially.
I'd have to dig into that further, but anyway. Let's see here. Um, Carolyn Seymour, who played Marasta. No, why am I rating this? Sorry, I'm ahead of where I was. The basic plot was seen as an homage to the classic science fiction film The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Hmm.
Uh, skip that. So spoilers. Riker is not seen with his normal human appearance, wearing a Starfleet uniform or aboard the Enterprise in this episode.
Hmm.
Um, this is the first episode not to feature the Enterprise in the teaser. Outside the opening credits, the ship is not seen until the opening of Act 2, 11 minutes into the episode.
Hmm.
Let's see. This is why I don't read trivia ahead of time. George Coe's makeup as Chancellor Jerkin bears a resemblance to the animated Woodhouse character he voiced in Archer. Geordi doesn't appear in this episode.
Okay.
Let's see. Despite receiving high billing in the credits and prominently featuring in the advertising, BB Newirth only appears in one scene and barely affects the plot.
Yeah.
So kind of to your point. Uh, So when Captain Picard asks Chancellor Durkin how the sudden appearance of an alien will be explained away, Chancellor Durkin goes into a fairly detailed summary of what may occur. What he describes is basically the Roswell UFO incident of 1947, except that in this case the conspiracy has been true all along. The Roswell incident, that sentence doesn't mean anything, but yeah, it's just borrowing from Roswell. That's the
Hmm.
trivia.
Yeah. So three pretty decent, or I mean, you thought a couple of them were just okay, but
Okay,
overall
good.
three decent episodes. Not a ton of trivia on them. Kind of
No,
interesting,
very, very
but
quiet episodes.
yeah, but yeah, overall enjoyable ones to watch. It was a good time. So well, there you go. Thank you again for spending some time with us discussing Star Trek as I continue my journey through the franchise. If you're watching along with us, next week we will be watching the next 3 episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation: Galaxy's Child, Night Terrors, and Identity Crisis. As always, if you enjoy what we're doing, please do us a favor and share with a friend. Also, leave us a rating and a review on your favorite podcast app. You can find us on X at Baldly Go Podcast, to Baldly Go Podcast on Facebook, and to baldlygopodcast.com. You can also find me at aaronemery.net. Nate and I have another podcast, The InLap, in which we discuss each race weekend of the current Formula One season. You can get episodes of The InLap wherever you get your podcasts. For Nate, this is Aaron reminding you to never give up, never surrender. It's a mystery. Who is this man? Who killed him? Where's the money he was talking about? It's a mystery. We have to go search for clues.